Hi, it's Penny here, and today we're going to be building my TBR for July. So we're going to be picking all the books that I'm going to plan to read. And as I have been doing recently, I'm going to use my reading goals to guide which books I pick. As well, I'm going to use my TBR Machine website that I made that spits out random reading prompts. And I'm going to use that for my first reading goal, which is TBR 0. So down here where you can't see, I've got my TBR cat. There's not many books left on it, but I'm trying to get it down to 0. I'm not quite sure if it's quite achievable, but maybe I might get there. So I've got the TBR Machine here, and we're going to pick 3 books off my TBR cat using the prompts that it gives me. Let's see what the first prompt is. Read a book by a New Zealand author. That's actually perfect. Oh, is it? So there's only one on my TBR cat, but it is Flight of the Fantail by Steph Matuku. I think this is some kind of horror, maybe a YA horror, because there's some teenagers on a bus that crashes in the remote bush. Their phones don't work. Things get scary. I bought this a little while ago and I've been meaning to read it for a while, so I'm excited to get to it. Alright, let's pick our second prompt. Read a secondhand book. This one is not helpful because almost all the books on my TBR cat are secondhand books, and I really like the TBR Machine to limit my options to make my decision easier. But what I do think I'm going to do is, I saw Steph Loves talking about making this Sci-Fi July, and my fourth reading goal, spoilers for the future of this video, is, well, part of my fourth reading goal anyway, is to read more science fiction. So I was going to maybe try and head towards the science fiction books. So since it hasn't given me much guidance, maybe that's the direction I will head in. Oh, I should probably read this one. Okay, so the one I'm going to pick is Vortex by S.J. Kincaid. This is the second book in a series. The first book was called Insignia. So that's going to be our second book. Wait! Oh my god, this is not a secondhand book. This is a new one. I bought this new. This won't count. You know what? It's gonna have to be this one then. Okay, so we're actually gonna go with Blindness by Jose Saramago. So I've actually watched the movie of this as a movie tie-in edition, and I really loved it. Basically, people just start going blind and they don't know why. Basically, everyone in the world is blind, and we follow a bunch of characters, I think, but the main one is kind of this doctor's wife who, for some reason, doesn't go blind. But she's trying to stick with her husband and kind of observing everything that's happening to society when people go through this blindness. I loved the movie, so I'm excited to read the book. Okay, so let's pick our next prompt. Read a book with an ugly cover. Of course, very subjective, this one. Ugly. Who's the ugliest? Gosh, none of these are that ugly, are they? No. Is it the best option? Okay, this is the best option, but also the worst option. The ugliest cover that I have on my TBR cat is Eye of the World by Robert Jordan, the first book in the Wheel of Time. This version that I have is especially ugly because the cover has kind of been destroyed. It's an ex-library book. It's been very well loved. I got it out of the free bin, they were throwing it out, and I was very excited to be able to start the Wheel of Time, but also this is really long and it's starting a new series, which is perhaps a segue into my second goal. So my second goal is series 0. So I want to have no series in progress. I know that this is completely unachievable, but I wanted to at least make some progress, and maybe if magic happened, I could achieve it. As part of that goal, I was trying not to start any new series. However, as part of TBR 0, I kind of need to read this because I was saying it was okay if books were part of a series, but I couldn't start them yet. But this one, it's the first book, so I can start the series. So regardless, I'm just gonna pick it, whatever. At least the first 2 that I picked are relatively short, so hopefully this fat one won't be so bad to read alongside those. But anyway, let's move on to talking about series. So my other approach to series is that I wanted to finish a series every month. I did finish quite a few last month, I think, but this month, the main one that I'm going to try and finish is the Bee and Puppycat series. I'm going to read volume 3. I've got it out from the library in ebook form, so I don't have it here physically, but I have it. and I'm gonna finish that. So Bee and Puppy Cat, if you don't know, is basically this girl named Bee and her puppy cat. They work for this magical temp agency, and so basically they just get sent on random magical jobs in order to make some money. But also Bee is kind of terrible at life in a very relatable way, and I just really enjoy it. The art is really beautiful, so I'm excited to read some more of that. I do also have a couple of other series that I'm going to make progress on. So firstly, I got the ebook of Into the Darkness by Lee Murray. This is my ebook copy. Probably kind of hard to see, but it was free. So it's a novella between the first and second books in the Tane McKenna series, which I read the first book last year. I think it was last year now. Basically, in the first book, we had a bunch of people going into this remote forest in New Zealand. People from the army, people from this Maori tribe, some scientists. They all went in, and then there was this creature in there, kind of a mix between dinosaurs and taniwha. It was kind of creature horror and very scary, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't expect to enjoy it, but I really enjoyed it. So I'm interested to see what will happen in this series next. The novella is really short and also free, so I may as well make some progress on that. And then as well, my hold for King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo is coming through. So when I initially started reading the Crooked Kingdom series, I wasn't sure if I would continue with the series after that. However, I really love that duology, especially what happens with Nina and her magic, and I believe that Nina's magic is going to be developed more in this King of Scars duology. So I've decided I'm going to read it. Also, I did really like the Shadow and Bone Netflix adaptation. So I may as well read all the books in that series in the hope that the adaptation will eventually get all the way through it. Then my next reading goal was to read more diversely, and I picked out a couple of specific strategies for this. Firstly, I wanted to read a book by a Maori or Pacific author at least one every 2 months, so 6 in a year. My biggest challenge there is just finding ones that I think I'm going to really like. As it turns out, on this particular TBR, we've already got Flight of the Fantail, which is by a Maori author, as well as Into the Darkness by Lee Murray, who is a Maori author. So that will get me ahead of the goal, which is good, and also books that I'll hopefully really like. As well, for diversity, I'm trying to get the overall percentage to less than 70% white authors. And I'm pretty sure, looking at my graphs, that I'm doing okay-ish. Like, so for this month, I'm doing okay. I think overall I'm slightly over, but hopefully I can eventually get there. And the last part of the goal was to read at least one non-binary author, which I think I've read several this year already, so we're doing okay with that one as well. Also, specifically this month, I'm going to read a couple of books by Sarah Gailey, who is a non-binary author. So firstly, I've got Upright Woman Wanted. This, I think, is a story about a girl whose fiance is executed for having resistance propaganda, and then she goes on the run, stows away in this librarian's book wagon. I don't really know. Honestly, I just loved Magic for Liars by Sarah Gailey so much that I wanted to read some more of their work, and so this audiobook was available at the library, so I got it. The other Sarah Gailey book that I want to read is The Echo Wife. This is one that I actually put on my most anticipated releases because the concept sounded so interesting, and then I realized it was Sarah Gailey, who's I'm hoping going to be one of my new favorite authors, so like doubly anticipated now. It was actually released earlier in the year, but I'm taking a little while to get to it, but I am super excited to find the time this month. This is about a woman whose clone kills her husband, who she was having an affair with. I don't know, but I love clones, and I do want to read more thrillers this year as well, so I'm excited to get to that. Okay, then my next goal was to read less fantasy. Now, I don't actually want to read less fantasy, but what I do want to do is read more sci-fi and more horrors and more thrillers. So far this year, I've actually been reading more contemporaries, so I feel like I'm kind of failing at this. I was trying to read more sci-fi in July, but looking at this, I haven't done too well. This is sci-fi. This one is horror, but this one's fantasy. Still, I still want to read some fantasy. But as well, I did add a couple of sci-fi specifically onto my TBR for this sci-fi July type thing. So firstly, I've got Kindred by Octavia Butler. This is a story about a black girl who somehow ends up going back in time, and while she's there, she saves this boy before she finds herself back in the future again. And then she keeps going back in time and having to save this boy, and eventually she realizes that he is her ancestor, but he's also a slave trader, or at least the son of a slave trader. I don't know much more about that, but I love time travel and I've heard that Kindred is really amazing, so I'm looking forward to reading that. And the other one that I've added to my list is Exhalation by Ted Chiang. So this is a short story anthology. I read Stories of Your Life and Others by Ted Chiang, and those short stories were amazing. They definitely stretched my brain, like slightly above my intelligence level perhaps. However, I really enjoyed being stretched and I just really love the concepts and the ideas, so I'm really excited to read some more short stories by him as well. I do think even with adding a few sci-fi and thrillers into my TBR that I'm still behind on my goals in terms of percentages there, but I'll continue to work on that throughout the year. And then my final reading goal was to get my average rating up. I think that there's quite a few books on here that I'm expecting to love. Blindness is one, Eye of the World is another one, The Echo Wife I should absolutely love, Exhalation I should love. Usually most of these I should love, so hopefully that will help me with keeping my average rating up. At the moment it's 3.43, which is definitely higher than my goal of higher than 3.24, and I'm inching towards a goal of 3.5. At some point I'm gonna have to read a whole bunch of 5-star predictions or something. There is one other book on my TBR that I haven't mentioned yet, and that is Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. I'm somewhat terrified of reading this because for some reason it seems very intimidating, but I have read another Haruki Murakami, The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, and I absolutely love that, so it's a good sign. I've kind of forgotten what Kafka on the Shore is about. A lot of people talk about it. It's a fantasy, something about a guy, someone who runs away and talks to this man, and there's a cat involved. I've forgotten, but I'm excited to read it. I've had a hold on it for so long. That's why I've forgotten what it was. But I did put a list together of books I wanted to read this year, standalone books that I wanted to read this year, and I thought that it's lower priority to get through that list than the rest of my reading goals, but it is still good to be able to make some progress on it. As well, I will say I do have these 3 books that I want to try and read this month as part of this reading project I'm doing. I started it not really expecting that I'll have time to get through these books, but maybe I will. I mean, this doesn't seem that bad. I don't have any library books this month, although I do have holds on Empire of the Vampire and Mr. Impossible, and I'm quite near the top of those hold queues, so they might come through, but I think they can wait till August for me to read them anyway. So this seems completely doable. I've also been listening to more audiobooks very recently, so I'm hoping in July I'll easily get through all the rest of my audiobooks. I guess I do also have a couple of ebooks to read. This one in Exhalation I've got in ebook form. Oh, and Bee and Puppy Cat. So a few more things on this stack. But it almost seems like it might be achievable, so fingers crossed. Do let me know if you have read any of the books that I'm planning to read in July, whether you think I'm going to like them. I'd love for you to check back in when I do my wrap up at the end of the month so that we can talk more about these books. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.